I still remember the first night I noticed it. I had just put her down, my newborn daughter, swaddled tight against the chill that always seemed to settle into our little house at night. The baby monitor was set up on the dresser across the room, its soft green light a comfort more than anything. I'd been so exhausted, so utterly drained from months of sleepless nights that I barely registered the small flicker at first. A shadow darting across the corner of the crib. My mind told me it was nothing, that my eyes were betraying me, tired and on edge. But even as I told myself that, something deep in my chest twisted in unease. Over the next few nights, I started noticing the movements again. At first, it was subtle, almost imperceptible. A flicker here, a stretch of darkness there. But it didn't feel random. The shadow seemed to move with purpose, as if it were learning the layout of the crib, the angles of the room, the rhythm of her breathing. I began to lie awake, staring at the monitor, my ears straining to catch any sound, my heart drumming in a panicked rhythm. That's when I first heard the whisper. It was faint, almost drowned out by the hum of the heater, and I swore it wasn't real. But it came again, low and sibilant. Words I couldn't make out, but that didn't belong to anyone in the house. My husband slept soundly beside me, oblivious, and I envied him for it. The whisper seemed to come from the monitor itself, a distorted echo bouncing out of the speaker in the corner. I wanted to turn it off, smash it against the wall, but something kept me rooted there, watching. One evening, I remember gripping the edge of the dresser, my knuckles white, my breath shallow. The shadow stopped moving entirely. It paused, and for the first time, it felt like it was aware of me as I was of it. Slowly, unnervingly, it tilted what I could only describe as a head toward the camera, and I could swear it looked straight at me. My stomach dropped, a cold sinking weight pressing down. I rushed into the room, half expecting to find her in the crib. But it was empty. My heart stuttered. She was lying in the bassinet across the room, bundled and safe. And yet on the monitor I saw it again, a tiny hand reaching up, almost grasping at the camera lens as if it wanted to pull itself through. I don't know how long I stood frozen, staring at that tiny hand, the shadow frozen behind it. But when I finally moved, I felt like I was breaking some unspoken law. I tried to rationalize it. Reflections, tricks of the light, my mind unraveling from exhaustion. But the unease didn't leave. Night after night it returned. The shadow would drift along the walls, sometimes hovering at the edge of the crib, other times slipping silently across the floorboards. It never spoke again, not aloud, but the presence was suffocating. I stopped leaving the room. I stopped sleeping near her, stopped trusting the soft creaks and sighs of our old house. Every time I glanced at the monitor, my chest would tighten, my stomach would churn, and I'd pray it wasn't moving closer. Sometimes, when I dared, I would peer through the door crack, half expecting to see it crouch there, unmoving, staring at her, waiting for something I couldn't name. The fear became a part of the rhythm of our lives, like the hum of the heater or the ticking of the old clock on the wall. The strangest part was how quiet it was. No steps on the floorboards, no rattling of doors, no scent or disturbance, just the subtle, creeping feeling of being watched. I started leaving cameras set up in the corners, hoping to catch evidence to prove to myself that I wasn't losing my mind. Sometimes, late at night, I would review the footage and see a flicker, a blur, a shadow that wasn't there when I watched live. Once, a small shape appeared to move in tandem with her tiny hands as she kicked at her blanket, as if mimicking her every move. I wanted to scream, to destroy the cameras, to burn them, but my curiosity, my desperate need to understand, held me back. There was a night, I remember vividly, when I almost broke. I had dozed off in the recliner with her monitor balanced on my chest, and I woke to a sound that froze me in place. The faintest creak of the crib rail, followed by the softest thump, like a hand pressing against wood. My pulse slammed against my ears as I bolted upright. I shined my phone light across the room, nothing. But on the monitor, I saw it again. The same small, dark figure at the edge of the crib. It raised a hand slowly, deliberately, as if beckoning me closer, testing my reaction. My breath caught. My legs felt like lead. I could not move. I don't know how long I stayed like that, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. When I finally forced myself to look directly at the crib, there was nothing. No shadow, no figure, only the gentle rise and fall of her chest. And yet the memory of that hand reaching silently toward the camera has never left me. Even now, when I put her to bed in another room, I glance at the monitor more often than I should, feeling the same prickling sense of eyes at my back, a presence lurking just out of reach. Some nights, I swear I can hear the whisper again, so faint I think I imagined it. Then it curls around the edges of the walls, a sound just at the edge of hearing. It is not a voice I can identify, not one that makes sense, and it vanishes the instant I strain to listen. The tension builds, small movements across the monitor, the feeling of being watched until I feel trapped in my own home, a prisoner of something I cannot confront or name. I have learned to live with it because there is no other choice. I cannot leave her alone. I cannot ignore what I have seen. Even when friends visit, laughing and cooing over the baby, I cannot shake the unease. They do not see it, cannot hear it, and I feel foolish speaking of it. I have tried to rationalize it, to tell myself it is stress, exhaustion, an overactive imagination fueled by fear and isolation. But every night, without fail, it is there. The shadow, the hand, the watching, a presence that makes the small house feel larger and lonelier at the same time. I do not know what it wants, and I do not want to know. The safest I can do is keep her close, monitor always on, light always low but on, my eyes never straying far. There are nights I wonder if it is testing me, learning me, gauging how far I will let it come before I notice. Some nights I feel it retreat, sensing my attention only to return the moment I turn away. I have begun to dread the simple act of putting her down, of leaving her to sleep even for a few minutes. It has been months, yet the unease has not diminished. If anything, it has become more intimate, more precise. The shadow knows her routines, her patterns, the gentle movements she makes as she sleeps, and I cannot help but feel that it waits. Not for me, not even for her, but for something else, something I am powerless to stop. I live with the fear now as one lives with the dark, constantly aware of it, accepting it but never letting my guard down. I do not know if anyone would believe me, would understand, or if it matters at all. All I know is that the monitor still flickers at night, the shadow still drifts, and the faint whisper still lingers at the edges of my hearing. I will never leave her alone again, and I will never, ever forget the small hand reaching toward the camera, a silent, deliberate reminder that we are not alone, and that some presences do not need doors, locks, or logic to enter a home and linger forever. I remember the first night it happened like it was yesterday, even though it's been months. I was sitting alone downstairs, half watching the old television and half listening to the soft ticking of the clock, when the monitor caught it. At first I thought it was a glitch, just some hiccup in the app, but the sound persisted, growing clearer with every second. A lullaby, faint and uneven, began to drift from the speaker. My baby had only been a few months old then. She hadn't started sleeping through the night, let alone humming songs herself. My stomach turned over as I leaned closer, trying to trace the source. The hum was synchronized with the gentle rocking of her crib, a movement I had not initiated. I froze, ears straining. The lullaby, simple at first, grew strangely warped, curling at the edges with an almost sinister resonance, as though the walls themselves were breathing it out. My hands gripped the armrest of the couch, knuckles white. I told myself it had to be a technical error, a glitch in the monitor's microphone. But then I noticed it. The rhythm of the mobile above her crib matched the lullaby, swaying in time with the tune, though no one had touched it. I could feel the hair rise on the back of my neck. Something about the cadence was wrong, too precise, too deliberate, as if someone or something was trying to match her sleeping patterns perfectly. Heart hammering, I bolted up the stairs, breath catching in my throat with every step. The hallway was cold, far colder than the rest of the house, and the air felt heavier, thicker. I reached the nursery and my hands trembled as I pushed the door open. The room was empty. No one was there. Every window was closed, every door locked. The crib was still gently rocking, the mobile swaying as if someone had nudged it. The lullaby continued, now louder in the monitor speaker than in the room itself. It came from nowhere. I dropped to the floor beside the crib, scanning every shadow, every corner. There was nothing, only the cold, still air and that eerie mechanical hum echoing in my ears. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor, monitoring the crib through the camera feed, waiting for anything. Hours passed, and the lullaby never stopped, never faltered. The sound became a part of the house, like it belonged there, whispering through the walls, curling around the corners of the ceiling. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the app had a new setting I hadn't noticed. Maybe it was the baby's own cooing echoing back at me, but it didn't match her voice and the rhythm was too exact, too unnatural. The next night, I kept the monitor on, my heart still hammering. Around 2 in the morning, it started again. At first, I thought it was fading in from the hall or from the street, but the sound came with a familiarity that made my blood run cold, and then I saw it. On the monitor, there was a figure, sitting on the edge of the crib, humming along with the lullaby, its head tilting unnaturally, too far to be human. I froze. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. The figure didn't move in a chaotic way. It moved deliberately, perfectly in sync with the mobile above the crib, perfectly in sync with the rhythm of the song. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but my throat felt locked. Every rational part of me screamed that this couldn't be real. Yet there it was. The figure's face was obscured by shadows, featureless in the dim light of the nightlight, but the intent behind it was clear. It was observing, learning, interacting with something it shouldn't. My daughter. I wanted to run in, to confront it, to end whatever nightmare was unfolding, but my legs refused. I was paralyzed by fear and disbelief. The room itself seemed to stretch and contract around me. The walls whispered faintly, the hum of the lullaby growing into something almost tactile pressing against my chest. I eventually summoned enough courage to check the crib. Nothing, no one was there. My baby was sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling as if she had not been the center of some presence so calculated and unnerving. But the monitor still showed the figure, its head tilting, humming that warped lullaby. I reached for the monitor to turn it off, but the screen flickered violently, static flaring across the feed before the figure vanished. I tried to sleep afterward, but the memory of it clung to me. I kept the nursery door closed the next day, checking the crib obsessively, every shadow making me jump. That night and every night after, the lullaby returned. Always faint, always distorted, always in time with the mobile, never too loud to wake her, but enough to make me listen. I began leaving cameras and recorders around, desperate for proof, desperate for explanation. Sometimes the recordings captured nothing but static, the occasional faint hum that didn't match anything in the room. Other times I caught glimpses, a shadow bending unnaturally, a dark shape at the edge of the crib, a hand brushing against the mobile ever so lightly, just as I'd imagined. Weeks passed, and the tension settled into a rhythm I had no choice but to accept. I didn't tell anyone. Friends, family. They would have thought me crazy. The lullaby, the figure, the mobile. It became part of the fabric of my nights, woven into the fragile thread of sleep I could manage. I started to notice small things, subtle signs that the presence was learning, observing. The mobile's tilt would sometimes anticipate her movements, shifting in a way that suggested awareness, intelligence. The hum of the song would start a fraction of a second before she stirred, a preemptive echo of her waking. I felt trapped in my own house, a helpless spectator to a force I could not name or confront. Sometimes, when she slept peacefully, I would watch the monitor for hours, waiting for it to appear. And sometimes it did, never aggressive, never close enough to touch her, but close enough to make me shiver, close enough to remind me that the night did not belong to me. The figure seemed to vanish when I entered the room, yet the evidence remained. The faint swaying of the mobile, the ghost of the lullaby echoing in the monitor, the sense of being observed. I learned to live in quiet terror, pacing myself between panic and exhaustion, knowing that sleep was a danger, but so was wakefulness. I cannot explain why it appeared or why it stayed. I cannot explain how something could move with such deliberate subtlety, synchronized with a child who had not yet spoken or hummed a note. I do not know if it is still there now, watching, waiting, practicing the lullaby until it knew it perfectly. All I know is that the hum still creeps into my mind, a memory I cannot shake, a melody tied to shadows and swaying mobiles and that hollow, impossible feeling of being observed, even now. Months later, I hesitate before turning off the monitor. I hesitate before leaving her room, even for a few minutes. The lullaby lingers in my thoughts, and I swear sometimes I hear it faintly outside of the monitor, as if the house itself remembers it, hums it for me when the walls grow quiet. I have no answers, no relief, and I fear that this presence, whatever it is, has learned the rhythms of our lives too well. It knows when we are awake, when we are asleep, and when to appear. It waits at the edge of the crib, patient, precise, invisible to everyone else. I do not sleep peacefully. I do not leave her room. I cannot turn my back, and I do not know if it will ever go away. It started one quiet night, the kind that feels too still, like the house is holding its breath. I had just put my baby down in the crib, wrapped in a soft blanket, her tiny fingers curled around the edge. I live alone with her in an old, creaking house tucked into the Appalachian hills, the kind of place where the walls remember more than you do, where the air smells of damp wood and something older, something unspoken. I was sitting on the couch, half dozing, half watching the monitor feed on my phone when it happened. The screen flickered once like a faulty bulb, then the camera shifted slightly, the angle tilting as if someone had nudged it. My stomach dropped. I live alone. No one else had been in that room for hours. I froze. The air in the house felt thicker suddenly, and I could hear every creak of the floorboards under my own feet, every distant hum of the refrigerator, every small sigh of the house itself settling. And then I saw it, a dark figure materializing in the corner of the nursery. It wasn't moving aggressively or reaching for her. It was just there, leaning slightly over the crib, watching. I couldn't look away. My chest constricted, and for a moment I felt entirely paralyzed, as though my body had betrayed me. I wanted to scream, to run, but my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. Hours seemed to pass in that frozen state, the monitor showing the figure unmoving, my baby asleep and oblivious, and me trapped in a haze of fear and disbelief. When I finally forced myself to reach for the hallway light, the figure was gone. The shadows of the room stretched long and empty, and for the first time I could breathe again. But the sense of being watched didn't leave me. I couldn't shake the impression that it had lingered, waiting in some invisible corner of the air just beyond my perception. Over the next few days, I kept checking the monitor obsessively, setting up extra cameras, hoping for proof, hoping for a rational explanation. It came. Not immediately, but in the dead of night. The feed would catch flickers in the corner, shapes bending unnaturally, shadows pooling where there shouldn't be any. The camera subtly shifted as if someone had been adjusting it. One afternoon, while dusting the nursery, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. Small footprints in the dust behind the crib, tiny, barely the size of my baby's hand, leading from the corner of the room to nowhere. I traced them with my finger, but they stopped abruptly, as if the floor had swallowed them whole. I backed away, my pulse hammering, and swore I would never be able to explain what I had seen to anyone. Friends, family, they'd call me crazy. They'd say I was imagining things, that my exhaustion from sleepless nights had twisted reality, and maybe I was. Part of me wants to believe that. But the monitor had recorded the figure several nights running, its presence undeniable. After that, I stopped sleeping near the nursery. I would sit in the living room with the monitor balanced in my lap, my back stiff and sore from hours of sitting, my eyes refusing to leave the screen for even a second. I tried to convince myself that the figure was just a trick of the camera, a fluke in the lighting, but my gut told me otherwise. There was intelligence there, quiet, patient, observing. It did not move like a person. It moved like something learning, taking notes, marking time. Every time I dared to step closer to the crib, I could feel the tension in the room spike, a pressure that made my chest tight and my hands shake. The nights stretched on, each one slower, longer than the last. I began hearing things, subtle sounds that didn't belong. A faint creak as if someone shifted weight in the corner, a whisper that caught at the edges of my hearing, so low I could barely discern it. Sometimes when I glanced at the monitor, I thought I saw a silhouette there, leaning just out of focus, its presence more felt than seen. I couldn't tell if it moved when I looked away, or if my mind was inventing the motions to justify the fear that had rooted itself deep inside me. I started sleeping during the day, when the sun filtered through the windows and the nursery looked ordinary, normal. Nighttime became unbearable. The house felt alive in a way I could not explain. Each shadow a potential hiding place, each corner a vantage point for something watching. I even tried moving her crib closer to my bed, thinking proximity would protect her. But no matter where I placed her, the monitor still caught subtle flickers, movements too deliberate to be accidental. There was one night I will never forget. I had dozed off in the recliner, monitor resting across my chest, the dull glow of the screen illuminating the room. I woke to a soft creak, the crib rail shifting just slightly. My pulse hit my throat and I froze. The camera feed flickered and I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me until I saw it. the figure leaning over the edge, just like before. Its head tilted, its posture calm, deliberate, and yet entirely unnatural. I could not hear it breathe. It did not move like a person. I could only watch, trapped in disbelief and panic as it seemed to observe the baby, its attention focused entirely on her. I dared not move. I dared not call for it to leave. Hours passed like this, though I cannot be certain if it was hours or minutes. The tension was suffocating. The moment I flicked on the hallway light, it vanished, leaving the room empty once more. My baby slept peacefully, untouched, unaware of the presence that had lingered just beyond reach. I sat there for what felt like eternity, holding the monitor and trembling, wondering what I had witnessed. Days later, I discovered more signs, more footprints in the dust, and subtle shifts in the room that made it feel inhabited even when I was alone. Objects would be slightly moved, the blanket on the crib subtly turned, the mobile sometimes tilted differently than I remembered. I could not trust my own eyes. I could not trust the monitor either, even though it seemed to capture the truth more accurately than I ever could. I began to speak less, to go out less, to avoid anyone who might come too close, curious. The figure seemed content to observe from the shadows, never leaving evidence beyond those fleeting glimpses, those small, almost imperceptible movements. I could feel it learning me, learning her, watching the rhythms of our lives, and it terrified me more than anything I had ever known. Some nights, I hear the faintest hint of movement from the nursery, even when I am in the living room far from the camera. I strain to listen, and sometimes it feels like there is someone or something shifting just beyond my vision, just beyond the range of light, waiting for me to look away. I cannot leave her alone. I cannot rest while she sleeps. I am trapped in a cycle of vigilance, exhaustion, and dread, each day bleeding into the next with the constant hum of fear in the back of my mind. I do not know what it wants. I do not know why it comes. I do not know if it is always there or only when I notice. I have no answers. All I know is that the nursery is no longer a safe place, the house no longer a sanctuary, and the nights no longer belong to me. Every shadow could conceal it. Every flicker of light could reveal it, and I cannot turn away. I cannot stop watching. Even now I sit here, monitor in hand, heart hammering, listening to the creaks of the old house, every sound amplified, every shadow suspect. I do not sleep in the nursery. I do not walk near it alone. And I do not know if it will ever return, or if it has always been here, watching quietly, patient, unrelenting, just beyond my perception. It started late one night when the house was quiet enough that even the old pipes creaking in the walls seemed amplified. I had put my baby down hours earlier, swaddled tight in her crib, and my husband was asleep beside me. The monitor lay on the nightstand, its green light blinking softly, a small comfort in the otherwise still room. I was almost asleep myself when it began. A faint, desperate cry, barely audible, repeating at intervals. At first I thought it was my baby waking, but her chest was rising and falling steadily in the crib. The sound persisted, echoing through the monitor, low and urgent, impossible to ignore. Heart hammering, I rushed upstairs, every step slow and hesitant as though moving faster would make it vanish. The hallway was cold, thicker somehow than it had been just moments ago. I reached her room, pushed the door open, and froze. The crib was empty of any motion beyond her breathing, her blanket slightly ruffled. The crying stopped the instant I entered the room. I stood there, chest tight, trying to make sense of it. There was nothing, no one, just the soft glow of the nightlight and the gentle rise and fall of my baby's tiny body. I went back downstairs, shaking, telling myself I must have imagined it. But over the next few nights, the pattern continued. The monitor picked up the same faint cry, always at the same time, always repeating, always impossible. At first, it was a small nuisance, a glitch, I convinced myself. But then I noticed other things. The crib rocking gently on its own, the mobile above spinning just slightly, though I had not touched it. Small movements, subtle, almost polite, as if someone or something was careful not to wake her completely. I started recording the feed, desperate to catch proof, desperate to understand what I was seeing and hearing. Playback offered no comfort. Most of the time it was just static, white noise and flickers as if the monitor refused to cooperate. But occasionally, fleetingly, a face would appear in the shadows. Pale, unreadable, so still it could have been a trick of the light, yet unmistakably there. My stomach would not. A wave of nausea and fear washing over me, and I would pause the video, zoom in, and see nothing but a distorted shadow. No features, no expression, just presence. It was deliberate. It watched, it waited. I could feel it through the monitor, patient and silent, as if marking me for some unknown reason. The nights grew longer, heavier. I stopped sleeping in the bedroom with my husband, afraid to be so close to her without watching. I would perch in the living room, monitor balanced in my lap, staring for hours at the glowing screen, eyes stinging, body stiff. Every creak of the floorboards became a warning. Every gust of wind against the windows a possible intrusion. Even when the house was empty and silent, I could feel the air press against me differently, as if something unseen occupied the corners, stretching just beyond my perception. One night, I saw it clearly. I had left the monitor on while I slept in the recliner, exhausted from another long day, and I woke to a soft, almost imperceptible cry. The camera feed flickered, and then there it was, a dark shape leaning over the crib. Its form was indistinct, but the presence was unmistakable. It did not move aggressively, it did not touch my baby, it simply observed. My body froze, breath caught, mind screaming to act but legs refusing to move. I watched it for what felt like hours. Time lost meaning. The figure was patient, quiet, deliberate. And when I finally turned on the overhead light, it was gone. The next day, I scoured the room for clues. Nothing, no footprints, no fingerprints, no sign of intrusion. Just the lingering sense of something having been there. I began to question my own sanity, but the recordings provided no comfort. The occasional glimpses of a pale face in the shadows, the subtle rocking of the mobile, the faint cries, all evidence of something I could not explain. I felt trapped in a loop, a cycle of fear and vigilance I could not escape. I tried leaving the crib closer to my bedroom, tried monitoring her more actively, tried ignoring it entirely. Nothing worked. The cries continued, subtle, urgent, echoing at the edges of hearing, always accompanied by small, impossible movements. I learned to move slowly, to avoid startling whatever it was, to keep my presence calm so that it would not act further. And still it waited, always waiting. The weight of the nights grew heavier. Even during the day, I would check the nursery obsessively, scanning the corners, the shadows, the areas that light never reached. Sometimes I would swear the air felt different, thickened, like the room had absorbed something from the night before. The sense of being watched never left me, a lingering pressure that made my back ache and my eyes sting. I began to dread the very act of putting her to bed, of leaving her alone even for minutes. I cannot explain why it came or why it stayed. I cannot explain the cries, the subtle movements, or the faint glimpses of that pale, unreadable face. I do not know if it will ever leave, or if it has claimed a space in our home that I cannot reclaim. All I know is that I cannot sleep peacefully. I cannot leave her side. I cannot pretend the house is empty or that the air is still. Every night I hear the faintest whisper of her cries, soft, urgent, impossible, and I know that whatever watches us is patient, silent, and persistent even now. I keep the monitor running, balanced in my lap, the green light blinking softly, a fragile comfort against the oppressive dark. I watch the crib, the mobile, the shadows, hoping for nothing more than reassurance that she sleeps safely. And yet I feel the presence at the edges of the room, at the periphery of perception, reminding me that the night belongs to something I cannot name, cannot see, cannot confront. I do not know if it will ever stop, if I will ever sleep without fear, if my child will ever know a night undisturbed. All I know is that the cries continue, soft and desperate, echoing in the monitor, and I am powerless to stop them.